Good evening, everyone. I am Kip Rogers, and we're going to start this session. I will ask my colleagues unmute themselves or mute themselves and show their cameras. Again, good evening. My name is Kip Rogers, and I am the Chief Academic Officer for Virginia Beach City Public Schools, and welcome to the Virtual Virginia February Cohort Information Session for Virginia Beach City Public Schools. So because of the statewide demand for a virtual option after the enactment of Governor Youngkin's Executive Order number 2, Virtual Virginia has attempted to accommodate school divisions who requested additional slots for the Virtual Virginia program. So Virtual Virginia has agreed to work with us to try to accommodate all of our Virginia Beach City Public Schools families who've expressed an interest in the virtual learning option for the remainder of the 2021-22 school year. Some of you all on the call may be familiar with Virtual Virginia and others of you not. So this information is designed for you to be provided with an additional piece of information to better assist you in making the informed decision that you need to prior to our tight deadline. So this evening, we do have several colleagues from Virtual Virginia joining us this evening, as well as several colleagues from Virginia Beach City Public Schools. And I'd like to take just a minute and have them introduce themselves, if you would.
Sure, I'll go ahead and jump in. My name is Jason Buendorf. I'm the instructional specialist over the middle school, grades 6, 7, and 8 with Virtual Virginia.
Thank you, Jason.
Hi, and my name is April Bittner. I am the instructional specialist for grades K through 5 with Virtual Virginia.
And I believe Kat is on with us as well, perhaps, maybe?
She did not, she's not able to make it. No, it's just April and I tonight.
Okay, great. Well, welcome and thank you very much. Let's introduce ourselves, Virginia Beach City Public Schools.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Seabridge. I'm the Director of Instructional Technology.
And good evening, everybody. I am Joel Goldenshoe, Principal Virtual Learning for Virginia Beach City Public Schools.
Good evening. My name is Robert Jameson. I'm Coordinator of School Counseling Services.
Very good. And again, I'm Kip Rogers. The protocol that we will use this evening with our colleagues from Virtual Virginia, they will provide you with an overview of Virtual Virginia and what they have to offer with that program. And then I will provide you with some key information that will be important for you to remember, as well as some dates. And then we will answer some of the questions that we've received regarding virtual learning and Virtual Virginia. I do encourage you after this session to visit the Virtual Virginia website that's located at virtualvirginia.org. You can also visit our Virtual Virginia FAQ page that's located on our website at vbschools.com. And of course, you can certainly reach out to your school-based counselor if you have any additional questions about Virtual Virginia. They're always happy to answer your questions. And by the way, this is School Counselors Week. So if you reach out to them, please thank them for all of the service that they are providing our students and families. So that being said, I am going to stop sharing my screen and allow our colleagues from Virtual Virginia to share theirs to provide us some information on Virtual Virginia.
Perfect. And I have it pulled up and ready to go. So bear with me. All right, April, it is not letting me share at the current location where I'm at. Do you have the presentation on your end?
Sure. Yep.
Let's change that up. Perfect. Thank you all so much for waiting. Sorry for the delay. Let's go ahead and get started. So we just want to welcome you all and share some information about Virtual Virginia, who we are and what we do and what it looks like for a student to participate with our courses.
So what we intend to go over with you this evening, some contact information for Virtual Virginia, what our model looks like, a 6 through 12 program overview in addition to a K through 5 overview, what a weekly agenda or schedule looks like for our learners, some brief login information, supplies, and then also some important contacts.
So for our administration and support, we've got some key contacts as far as people that are there for support. We've got Dr. Brian Mott, our executive director, Sarah Warnick, director of products and services, Stephanie Shea is our school support coordinator, and then April Bittner, who's here with you tonight. She's an instructional specialist over K-5, myself, Jason Buendorf, instructional specialist over the middle school, and then Kat Latkovich is our instructional specialist over grades 9 through 12 at the high school.
So the Virginia Department of Education's Virtual Virginia program, known as VVA, offers online courses, professional learning opportunities, and digital content to schools, students, and educators all across the Commonwealth. Virginia Public School divisions partner with Virtual Virginia, and together we ensure that all learners have access and opportunities that complement those in their physical school building.
So together, as you can see in this diagram here, the model really works to support that successful online learner. We have the public school on the one side that provides the counselor, the school-based mentor, textbooks, materials, student services, and we partner with them to then provide on our side access to the content, resources, instruction, and the online learning environment. And those two pieces coming together really is what supports that successful online learner.
So student accounts and accommodations with Virtual Virginia. Counselors at the local school enroll students in the Virtual Virginia courses, and they also share login credentials with students. Counselors enter and update all the student accommodations into our Virtual Virginia SIS system. And Virtual Virginia teachers then partner with the local school to implement accommodations as needed for students. Counselors and mentors together monitor student progress and work closely with Virtual Virginia teachers to help organize academic support conferences and to address areas of concern.
As far as student supports, we do partner with the local schools we mentioned before to support students with accommodations. Some commonly supported accommodations include the following. We do have read aloud support through what's called the Read Speaker app in Canvas, which is accessible in all of our courses. Students are able to actually have text and content read to them on all pages in a language of their choice. Dictionary and translation of content through the Read Speaker app, closed captioning on video content and synchronous sessions, extended time, multiple attempts, reduction in assignments, alternate assessments, reduction in choice options on assessments, chunking of material, frequent checks for understanding, frequent breaks, as well as other accommodations may be available. And we work closely with the case managers and the counselors if there's additional questions or concerns.
So what does our K-5 program look like? Virtual Virginia is very pleased to offer public schools a full-time online K-5 program. And as you can see, we offer grades K through 5, and in each grade level, we have math, science, social studies, reading, language arts, and also STEM. What Virtual Virginia provides is the full-time teacher of record, both synchronous and asynchronous instruction, division autonomy for specials and local assessments. Our teachers do one-to-one and small group instruction. And our K-5 teachers also have office hours for parents, guardians, even mentors to reach out in the afternoons. So what does it look like as a K-5 teacher? What can you expect as a parent? Your elementary school teachers will be online Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Synchronous sessions in all of our K-5 courses take place between 8 a.m. and 1. And then after 1 o'clock, teachers engage in small group sessions, sometimes one-to-one support, parent-teacher conferences, and also lesson planning and PLCs within our other K-5 departments. We do have supplemental lessons that are offered daily. So students do have an opportunity to engage in some resource classes. We have art, dance, world languages, STEM, and also wellness activities through HPE. So what does attendance look like for K-5 learners? Virtual Virginia teachers do take attendance daily during all synchronous sessions. Students are expected to participate in their live sessions, participate in their activities, and have their camera on. The camera on helps the teacher with engagement, participation, and overall understanding what the students are doing and mastering within their course. The parent and guardian should contact the Virtual Virginia teacher regarding absences for missed work. We report absences to the local school, and the local school has the ability to follow their local attendance policies as needed. This is a sample of a K-5 schedule, and we do have this available on our website as well. But as you can see, for all of our K-5 learners, their day starts at 8 o'clock, and each day they start with a morning meeting. And this is a great opportunity for teachers to just do a temperature check, make sure they're up, make sure they're moving. After morning meeting, students will move into reading, followed by math. And as you can see, breaks are also built into our K-5 schedule. We know with these young learners, they do need to step away, they need to move, they need to get up. So we have breaks built in throughout the day for these learners. They'll have social studies and science in the afternoons. And then they've got their specials that are mixed in depending on which day it is. Lunch and recess is 45 minutes long, giving students a chance to eat and step away from the computer. And then each day students will close out with a class meeting. Similar to the way they start the day, they close out with some reflection on what they've done and perhaps things they need to work on asynchronously to finish out their day. So again, this is just a sample schedule. Our specials and schedules do vary based on the teacher and the grade level. And this is available on our website as well.
All right, now jump in on the secondary program for grades 6 through 12. So our secondary program, we offer more than 100 online courses, and they are all taught by Virginia certified teachers for high school and middle school learners, grades 6 through 12. Major content areas such as English, computer science, fine arts, HPE, math, science, social studies, and world languages. Similar to what April just mentioned, we provide that full-time teacher of record. We provide academic support conferences, synchronous and asynchronous instruction, differentiated instruction, and one-on-one and small group instruction, which I'll explain as we continue where that occurs each week. Virtual Virginia instructors have Virginia certification. Office hours for our teachers for grades 6 through 12, our full-time teachers are 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. And I will say that at the middle school level, all of our teachers are full-time. At the high school level, I would say most of them are full-time. We do have some adjuncts that do work at the high school level, some with AP courses. And so there is a little bit of flexibility with those teachers as far as their hours. Adjuncts do work 10 hours per week because they are already working a full-time job. Synchronous components include 4 content sessions per week, and those occur Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And those synchronous sessions are usually 30 minutes per course per day. And then they have time to work on their assignments and on their coursework. Fridays are set aside for small group and one-on-one appointments, as I mentioned earlier. Students are encouraged to book that time with their teachers on Fridays as needed. And of course, if they need to schedule a time outside of Friday or on a different day during the week, they are welcome to do so. But Fridays are set aside 4 days for our teachers to do small group and one-on-one instruction. Instructors do communicate weekly by sending out a due this week email to all stakeholders. That includes the mentor, the counselor, as well as parents and the students. That communication happens every single week, letting all stakeholders know what is coming up for the week in terms of assignments that are due. And just a sample schedule of what it looks like. This is a middle school schedule. You'll see how things rotate. And as far as the start date, I do want, you can disregard that. Students at Virginia Beach, I do believe we have a start date of February 28th. And so students will follow the schedule for the 119 If you were to look at this online on our website, students will be following the live session schedule for 119. That means that on Monday at 8 o'clock, it would start with world languages, health and PE and electives. 9:30 would start English, 11 o'clock would be math, and then 1 p.m. would be science, and 2:30 would be social studies. You'll notice that there's a 90-minute period for these sessions to occur. And that is because our teachers are running typically 3 back-to-back live sessions, each 30 minutes long. And so your student might be in group 1, maybe group 2, maybe group 3 to attend their 30-minute session. And they'll know that when they're in the course and communicate with their instructor. It'll show up for them in Canvas. I do want to draw attention to the rotating schedule. It does rotate each day, which I understand is a little confusing. And it does that because some students do take our courses a la carte, which means they're taking some courses in the building, some online. And we want to make sure that if they can't attend live sessions maybe on Monday or Tuesday because of a set time, when that time changes later on in the week, they can still attend those live sessions. I also want to draw attention to, say, for example, 8 o'clock on Monday. We do understand that there's some possible conflicts with world languages, health and PE, or an elective course where those live sessions may be offered at the same time. And I just want to encourage that we work through those with the teachers, and we simply have the teachers switch the student to a different live session group, and we handle those on a one-on-one situation and make sure that we can work through those conflicts. Go ahead, April. As far as attendance, we encourage the engagement with the teacher, course content and peers, and synchronous instruction. That is a key part of the learning process. Attendance is encouraged for secondary students. Secondary students are encouraged to use cameras during live sessions. The teachers do need to see your face so that they know when you're getting it and when you're not. I will also say that whatever Virginia Beach policy is in terms of attendance and coming to live sessions, if they require that or have a different policy, obviously they will share that with you specifically. On the Virtual Virginia side, we want you to be engaged and be there in those live sessions. So we understand that there are conflicts at times, and all those live sessions are recorded and posted in your courses to review later. As far as pacing and supports, we are scheduled to start February 28th. Students will join courses and will not be required to make up missing work from assignments prior to February 28th. However, if content has been missed and teachers identify any particular gaps or maybe some things were missed, our teachers will pace and work with students in the one-on-one and also in small group instruction to make sure that their instruction is complete for the school year. But we want to make sure that as far as coming into courses, that you are aware that students will be able to come in really right where they left off. They're going to be able to jump right in with the courses and flow from February 28th forward, and they're not going to be penalized or have to make up any missing work from when our courses started earlier this semester. As far as the expectations, I mentioned 30 minutes per live session per course, Monday through Thursday for grades 6 through 12. Continuous live sessions with breaks between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. for K-5. And we do want to make sure that students are allocating at least an hour per course per day. That's the live session, as well as working on assignments until they attend their next live session. And then K-5, April mentioned here that they also have opportunities for students to join afternoon help sessions in small groups there too. And that wraps it up. Hopefully we were able to present a little picture for you of what Virtual Virginia is and how we serve students in the Commonwealth. We're excited to partner with Virginia Beach and that we are able to accommodate your students, and we look forward to working with you.
We do appreciate the partnership, Jason and April, and the very quick overview of Virtual Virginia. And I do encourage all of our families and colleagues who are on the call today, if you want more information about Virtual Virginia, that you visit their website at virtualvirginia.org. We also have some information on Virtual Virginia in the program. We have an FAQ on our webpage, vbschools.com. I'm going to follow up the information that was just shared with some information that is specific to Virginia Beach. And then we will share some questions that we receive relative to Virtual Virginia that we would like to provide you some answers for. So families, as we just heard a brief overview of Virtual Virginia and what they have to offer relative to their schedule and the courses that they offer, we want to make sure that if you have not already, that you have some conversation and you sit down with your student and really think about the decision. And of course, I'd be remiss without saying that we absolutely want all of our students to remain in Virginia Beach City Public Schools. 5 days a week. And we understand that some of our families are making a choice and a decision to go virtually. That being said, should you decide to go virtual for the remainder of the 2021-22 school year, we are asking that our families commit to Virtual Virginia for the remainder of the school year. So that is an expectation that we ask that our families commit. We also want you to think about Virtual Virginia operating on a different academic calendar than Virginia Beach City Public Schools does. So for example, the second semester for Virtual Virginia began January 19th, which was a few weeks ago, and they will not be starting Virtual Virginia for another couple of weeks. So we're scheduled to start on February 28th. So just kind of keep that in mind. The year for Virtual Virginia with our cohort ends May 27th, which is different from Virginia Beach's end date. So keep that in mind as you're having conversations and making those decisions. Jason mentioned that VBCPS students will be taught by licensed teachers, licensed Virginia teachers, but I need to be clear, your student will not be taught by a Virginia Beach City Public Schools teacher. So they will not be taught by a VBCPS teacher. Also, any of our students who are in an academy program or a specialized program, unfortunately, will not be able to remain in those programs because you can't participate in those programs simultaneously. In order to participate in our academies, programs, and special programs, you have to attend those programs face to face. So we want to make sure that we are keeping that in mind as well. We also heard about the elective courses that Virtual Virginia has to offer, which is great. And we need to be very clear that some electives are not offered in Virtual Virginia. And the electives that students take are going to be limited only to those that are offered in Virtual Virginia. And if you have a question about which electives are offered, you can certainly visit their website. Those courses are listed, and you can certainly check with your child's school counselor on the electives that are being offered. Another key point to consider relative to electives, especially for our high school students, is that some of our students may need to withdraw from certain courses that are not offered by Virtual Virginia, resulting in they are not earning the credit for that course. So if there are any specialized courses that they're taking, a part of a program, or that they're taking that is not offered at Virtual Virginia, they may need to withdraw from that course and not earn the credit for that course. Of course, that we'd be doing so without penalty. So we would not penalize them for not finishing the course, but they would not be able to earn that credit because they would not be able to finish that course. So that is definitely one conversation that you need to have with your student at home. And I also want to reiterate, daily attendance does count, as well as participation is expected, particularly with cameras on and making sure that students are engaging. We do watch student participation very carefully. We have mentors, we have counselors who constantly check upon students to make sure that they are keeping up with their lessons and activities through the virtual environment. And I also want to make sure that our families are considering their student and their style of learning. Virtual learning is a little bit challenging because you do have, students have to have some level of autonomy relative to their learning because it's just different. As you saw from the schedule that was presented to you, there are times when students will have independent learning and making sure that they are submitting assignments on time, especially for our secondary students. So I want to draw your attention to some key updates as well as dates that you need to pay attention to. February 4 through 9, our schools will be connecting with families, if they've not already, to get confirmation with you to decide whether or not you want to enroll your student into Virtual Virginia. Of course, today we're having the information webinars at 6 o'clock. For those of our families who have students who have an IEP, or students with disabilities, or a student who may have a 504, from the time period of February 7 through 17, our school-based staff will be contacting families to schedule IEP meetings that need to be held prior to students being registered for Virtual Virginia. On February 9th is the deadline for our families to share their enrollment decision with our school. So if you've not already done so, please make sure that you make communication with your school-based staff to indicate whether you are choosing to enroll your student in Virtual Virginia. On February 10th and 11th, we have parent Virtual Virginia sessions with our VB Virtual Learning Principal, Mr. Goldenshoe. That is a must. One of the things that we learned to make sure that we're providing top-notch support for our students as well as our families is that they have time to have conversations with the people in Virginia Beach who will be supporting their children. So it's imperative that should you decide to enroll your child into Virtual Virginia, that you attend one of those 2 Virtual Virginia parent sessions, and you should receive information soon about that. And then lastly, as was shared earlier, our scheduled date to begin Virtual Virginia is February 28th. And the reason why that date is we have to have time to make sure that we're holding IEP meetings and that we get schedules straight. We have a lot of nuances that need to take place that we cannot turn the amount of schedules that need to be turned over. Plus we have to work with Virtual Virginia and they have things on their end that they need to do. But as you heard, they are certainly willing to work with us in our students' schedule to make sure that they are not behind. So I'm going to stop sharing and I am going to ask my colleagues to engage in some of the questions that we've received relative to Virtual Virginia, and then we're going to provide some answers for you. So, all right, here's one. All right, so Mr. Jamison, I'm gonna pose this one to you. I kind of answered it already, but you may want to add to it some things that I forgot. Will Virtual Virginia have the same course options as Virginia Beach City Public Schools?
And good evening again to all of our families. Appreciate you participating in this event. And no, Virtual Virginia does not have all of the same course options as we make available at Virginia Beach City Public Schools. They do have a diverse list, as you heard, over 100 courses. But when it gets to, excuse me, the electives, it is limited to a certain degree, and just from the simple fact that it's delivered virtually. So any of our performing arts, some of our theater arts, our hands-on career and technical education courses, those are not available through Virtual Virginia. And as we shared before, any student who does or family that decides that virtual instruction through Virtual Virginia is important and the best way to go for their student, they go in that direction, there would be no penalty if they were to drop the VBCPS course and then enroll in other electives that do match through Virtual Virginia. So again, elective list, not as exhaustive, but we will definitely work with families to help them make those decisions.
Okay, all right, thank you. Dr. Shoebridge, I think this one would be good for you to answer. What actions are needed to have my student enrolled as a full-time Virtual Virginia student?
Great. So good evening, everybody. It's nice to have you with us. If a parent expressed an interest on the recent survey for their child to be participating in virtual learning for the second semester, really from the rest of the year, the parent and guardian should expect a phone call from the school staff to discuss this decision. The school staff member will then work with the family to make course selections if there's a difference, if what they're currently taking isn't available, what they might want in as an option to replace it, and we'll answer any questions.
Okay, very good. Mr. Goldenshoe, I'm going to have you answer this question. I think you can probably elaborate a little bit on the staff that you have at VLC. Will my child have a VBCPS teacher?
Oh, thank you. So yeah, my staff and my team's in place with counselors, mentors, specialists, and special education teachers. And we're really here to support all of our Virginia Beach families and maintain that connection to their home schools. So yes, we do have Virginia Beach staff members in place. We work in support with the instruction that your child would receive through Virtual Virginia and the Virtual Virginia teachers. So it's really that relationship and that graphic that Jason had earlier where it's the balance between the two, where that content instruction is coming from Virtual Virginia And then all the supporting pieces come from our Virginia Beach staff that I have here with me.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm gonna throw out this question again because it came up a lot. Is if I select Virtual Virginia for the remainder of the school year, do I have to stay in Virtual Virginia? Now, I want to reiterate, yes, that by selecting the option of going virtual for the remainder in February, we are asking all families to commit until the end of the school year for Virtual Virginia, which ends in late May. All right. Are Virtual Virginia students able to access sports, clubs, or other activities? And how will we get that information? Mr. Jameson, you want to answer that one?
Yes, I believe Mr. Goldenshoe and I can both answer it. But yes, they will remain. We really want to emphasize how, although a student may be pursuing the virtual instruction option through Virtual Virginia, they are remaining a Virginia Beach City Public Schools student. And more importantly, they are attached to and will remain linked with the school that they currently attend. Just from a relationship standpoint, from an extracurricular standpoint, and especially at the high school level, a graduation standpoint. So any student that is going to pursue virtual instruction through Virtual Virginia will remain attached to their school. They will still remain in communication with their school. They will receive updates about school-specific programs and events. And that's where Joel's team works as a liaison between the two. So that includes athletic activities, as well as some other extracurriculars that are available to all of our students.
So, and Joe?
I was going to piggyback on what Mr. Jameson said, and we use in Virginia Beach Schoology as our platform for communicating with students. And Virtual Virginia, they use Canvas. So there will be kind of two things going on at once. But for all of our virtual families, what we do is maintain communication with their homeschool principals and student activities coordinators, and any information in terms of like tryouts or upcoming events at the division level or at the school level for high school and middle school. We communicate that information through our Schoology groups to make sure that our students have all those opportunities. And then also for our elementary families, make sure that they're aware of what's going on in their schools at the face-to-face with big events and things like that outside of the normal instruction.
So, Mr. Goldenshoe and Mr. James, I want to keep in that same vein. We have several questions that are very similar, so I think it's important that we address them. What about chorus, theater, band, or like CTE courses? Can students still participate in those courses if they are in Virtual Virginia?
And so, similar to what was shared before with the limitations of virtual instruction, the answer is no. Just with those performance-based and hands-on electives, so chorus, again, band, advanced band, orchestra, students who are speaking with a school staff member and making that decision between should we pursue virtual instruction or should we remain face-to-face, that is one of the questions that they would ask me. Can I continue with orchestra? The answer would be no. You would be able to drop that course without penalty and then just remain in the other courses that you're currently enrolled. So normally English, math, science, social studies, and maybe a world language or health and PE or a different elective that you might be currently taking. If you then, the goal is then if you remain face-to-face, you would have access to those types of courses. So again, no, you would not be able to remain in those types of electives. You'd be able to drop it without penalty. And those are the kinds of conversations to have with the school-based staff when they reach out to you to confirm the enrollment decision.
And that same thing holds true with attending the academies. I know I mentioned it, but I want to stress that those students who want to stay enrolled in a specialty or academy program at one of the centers can't participate in Virtual Virginia and stay enrolled in those academies. What is Virtual Virginia's holiday calendar? And I'll reiterate, the calendar for Virtual Virginia is found on their website, and it is different in a lot of ways. I even think I don't have it in front of me. I know the spring break is a little different. Can our colleagues from Virtual Virginia share a little bit about spring break? That's good.
Sure, absolutely. Our calendar is going to be different than what you see within Virginia Beach. So I do encourage families to look at that. Instead of a full week of spring break, we actually just have a longer extended weekend. So students would have, and teachers would have off that Friday and Monday. We have added in some asynchronous days as well to March, and even one to the week of spring break. So I do encourage you to look at the calendar, because not all of the holidays are going to line up exactly like what you would see within your Virginia Beach calendar.
Would like to jump in there too and just reemphasize that even if Virginia Beach public schools are off because of snow or weather delays or whatever that may be, Virtual Virginia courses will still be continuing. We don't have snow days. Our courses are still online and our teachers are still going to teach. So we do want to emphasize that our calendar it is displayed online on our main website, and that does constitute when our courses are in full operation and when our teachers are online.
Great,
And
thank
just
you.
for the visual folks or visual learners, our virtual learning handbook that we have for our families that are participating, we have those two calendars side by side so that you can see the differences that exist for planning purposes for parents.
So I have one other question that is similar to the calendar, and just Virtual Virginia as a whole. How large are the Virtual Virginia classes?
Jump in on that one, and then April, if you want to talk about K-5 at the 6 to 12 level. As far as the classes, you're asking about synchronous instruction. Is that what you're asking about as far as how many kids are
Yes.
participating in the live sessions? Okay.
Yes,
So
thank you.
with those, teachers do spread them out. I mentioned earlier that they do typically 3 back-to-back sessions to spread those out. We really try to target between 30 to 40 students in those live sessions. That's about as many as that you'll see in a live session. And that's because the teachers are rotating or doing them back to back. So they'll have 30 to 40 students in the first one. Depending on their enrollments, they might have another 30, 40 in the second. Again, it depends on the teacher's enrollments, but typically that is about the most that you would see in a live session. K-5 is very different in that the numbers are going to be lower. April, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. The numbers are different in K-5, and we do stay within the state standards for class sizes. For example, our kindergarten classes are no larger than 24. And as you work your way through grades 1 through grade 5, all classes are under 30 students. Some of them, much lower than that, just as Jason said, depending on enrollment.
So the next question, Mr. Goldenshoe, this one's probably, well, for you and probably our colleagues at Virtual Virginia as well to chime in. Will my child have access to academic support if they're in Virtual Virginia?
All right, and just to clarify, the direct instruction that your child receives will be from their Virtual Virginia teachers. So their K-5 teacher, or if they're secondary, their English, math, science, social studies, those folks are Virtual Virginia staff members that are providing that instruction. And Virtual Virginia does work with our students, and their teachers work with our students, and they have all year to provide that academic support during their tutoring or their help sessions, their office hours as well. So those opportunities do exist within your child's schedule where they can meet with their Virtual Virginia teachers to get that academic support that they need.
What if my student has an IEP? How is that addressed?
All right, I'll jump back in on this one as well. So again, the content instruction is provided by Virtual Virginia. And then those supporting staff members that work on my team, the special education teachers, if the IEP team at your child's home school determines that, this is the best setting for them, Virtual Virginia, they would get their, again, content instruction from Virtual Virginia teachers. And then outside of their normal class time, that's when my team of special education teachers would work to provide those support services during the week. So it does look a little bit different in this virtual setting. If your child was in an inclusion math class, for instance, where they had a special education teacher and your content teacher in Virginia Beach working together in the same class period, in that virtual setting, it would look very different. They would get their math instruction direct from Virtual Virginia, that Virtual Virginia staff member. Then outside of that class time, they would have to work with a special education teacher to get those services provided. And then in terms of the accommodations or things they need that apply to virtual instruction, whether it's through an IEP for our students with disabilities or through 504, we make all of our Virtual Virginia, or Virginia Beach makes all of the Virtual Virginia staff members that work with their students aware of the accommodations and things that are in place, so that, again, we're supporting your child in that virtual setting. Everyone's aware of your needs, and we maintain that communication with Virtual Virginia, as well as your child's homeschool case manager, counselors, and administrators as seamlessly as possible to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is a good question. What if a student is not successful virtually? Will they have to return? Will they be required to return to in-person learning? Mr. Jameson or Joel, you want to answer that question?
Sure, I think
Yeah.
I'm just laughing and just taking over the question or the answers here.
Oh,
But
good.
so we do
The
work
principal.
with Virtual Virginia, but if a student is not meeting with success from attendance or from grades, they can be, or they're subject to being removed from the Virtual Virginia courses. When that happens, we have one singular opportunity to hold a reinstatement meeting. That takes place with Virtual Virginia staff members. If it's a K-5 student, for instance, April would be in attendance. If it's a middle school, it would be Jason. High school would be Kat. Somebody from my team, and then the parent and student as well. It essentially outlines a plan to support that student, get them back in, but if they continue to not meet with success, they would be required to return back to their school for face-to-face instruction. So again, our team is here to support that. That's not what we're looking for, but it does occur if a student continues to not meet with success academically or through attendance.
And just to Joel's point, or Mr. Goldenshoe's point, excuse me, that's where prior to the plan being created, as well as part of that plan, we have supports through Virginia Beach City Public Schools that can be leveraged, whether FEB tutoring or otherwise. Those are services that are accessible to our families and to our students to ensure that they continue to experience success through Virtual Virginia. If for some reason we do find ourselves in a position where the student is transferring back to their home school, because again, always attached in some way, shape, or form to their home school, the home school will work with students as they transition. So whether the student, whatever the grade was from Virtual Virginia, as they come in back to Virginia or transition back to Virginia Beach City Public Schools, in terms of classroom instruction, we'll work with families. And that plan looks different for each student, for each course. And it's a conversation that we'll have at the home school.
And I'd also like to add, Mr. Jameson, that the homeschool stays in constant communication with the student's performance. That's one great thing about our partnership, is that we stay very closely connected to the student's homeschool. So the next question is a good one. I think how do Virtual Virginia students participate in SOL testing? So students do participate in SOLs in person at the student's home school. So they'll take an online assessment under standard conditions like all other students, unless otherwise indicated, if they have an IEP or a 504 that allows them special accommodations. But generally, students in grades 3 through 12 who are enrolled in SOL core subject areas, they will take that SOL assessment, especially those for verified credits, at the home school. So we still have students who are in Virtual Virginia, they will be taking SOL tests. All right, Dr. Schubert, I see a couple that are geared to you. How will students continue to be able to participate in our APEX and Edgenuity courses, or if they're in BBDC?
So if a student is in DBDC or taking an APEX or Edgenuity course, again, it would be a conversation with your school. So when somebody from your school calls, that will be taken into consideration if your student is switching to virtual. So both of those, the APEX, Edgenuity, and the BBDC courses are asynchronous. So if that still fits in your student's schedule, if they enroll in Virtual Virginia, they can maintain their attendance and participation in the APEX, Edgenuity, or BBDC. But that, again, it's a conversation you need to have with your school whoever calls, whether it's the counselor helping you set up your courses or the principal administration from an elementary school. But those are, because they're asynchronous, those are still options students can maintain, even switching over to Virtual Virginia.
Here's another one I think that's in your area. What if I don't have internet connectivity or if I need technical support?
So some of that is Joel too, but I'll start with this one. Because you are a Virginia, your student is a Virginia Beach City Public School student, they are issued a Chromebook. So at the homeschool where they currently are, they have a Chromebook, they take that with them. They have access to that device. If you have spotty internet service or need internet service, you can let the school know when you confirm enrollment in Virtual Virginia that the student needs a hotspot. And the school coordinates with the Department of Technology to secure that hotspot for the family. There was another part of your question. Oh, if you have technical questions or if you have technical support, Mr. Goldenshoe has an instructional technology specialist on his team, Mr. Bondi. He's been phenomenal. Most schools have a technology support technician. Virtual Virginia, our Virtual Virginia Beach team does not. However, Mr. Bondi's been doing a phenomenal job of wearing that hat. And of course, if it's something that still can't be answered or handled by Mr. Goldenshoe or Mr. Bondi, then they can reach out to the Department of Technology and put a support ticket in for your student.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Goldenshoe, you want to add anything to that?
Sure, yeah, just the biggest thing is from a hardware standpoint, in terms of the physical things that your child will need for hotspots or their Chromebook. We'll help you support that. They're maintained by your child's homeschool currently, and we direct you back to that for the support. And then in terms of software, the things that they're going to need to access their coursework, that's maintained by Virtual Virginia. As I said in one of my earlier responses, they use Canvas as a platform. And we'll get into that in that required session where we'll really dive in and show you what it's going to look like day to day. But just for now, that's how we try to break it up for parents to keep it simple. Virginia Beach schools maintain that hardware, the physical stuff, and then Virtual Virginia and their team maintain Canvas. So when you have questions related to that, we direct you that way.
So Mr. Goldenshoe, I appreciate you've had the better part of a semester to see all different types of things and how we provide support and accommodation. So this question is from a parent who has a gifted learner. How will gifted students receive services and accommodations?
Sure. Much like when I talked about our special education students and our 504 students, they're having to get that service outside of their normal class time. It doesn't align with the model that we use in Virginia Beach, where the gifted resource teacher would be pushing into your child's gifted cluster class if they're in Virginia Beach. So it does look different in a virtual setting. They'll still have opportunities to communicate outside of their class time. That typically looks asynchronous, where opportunities for them to get some gifted enrichment type activities from the Virginia Beach staff, again, in that supporting role outside of Virtual Virginia instruction. So they would lose that direct relationship that they may have in their gifted cluster classes now in Virginia Beach. It would take on a different look, just like our special education services would outside of their Virtual Virginia class time.
And I'm guessing not guessing, I know similarly, our English learner students are also served in a similar way. You want to speak to that just a little bit?
Yes, sir. So same with our K-5 students. They would have that same or similar model that our gifted learners and special ed as well. For our secondary students that are enrolled in that ELL elective, which is a required course at the high school level, it's a credit-bearing course. They actually would have to attend that with our ELL teacher so that they could maintain that support for English language learners. Again, working with Virtual Virginia teachers to get the accommodations and things in place to support them during their classroom settings. And then my staff, again, in that supporting role outside of their classroom time, providing those services.
Okay, thank you. All the other questions I think we've already answered already. So I'll ask our colleagues from Virtual Virginia if there are pieces that we may have forgotten to share or questions that come up that we may want our families to know that was not mentioned today.
You all have done a fantastic job answering the questions. And Mr. Goldenshoe, I want to compliment your team as well. You guys are doing a fantastic job with maintaining that relationship with the homeschool. Also, the additional supports that are in place for students. It is a pleasure to work with you all. I did want to mention one thing I did leave out when I talked about grades 6 through 12, and that is attendance is taken. So I want to make sure that that's clear. Attendance is taken both at the K-5 level, but also at the high school level and middle school level as well. Students do need to be active in courses to be counted as present. And then obviously if they're in live sessions with teachers, that counts them as present as well. So just wanted to make sure that that was clear before we head out. And I did want to apologize, Dr. Rogers. We do need to step out for
Yes,
a meeting
thank
with
you.
our team here locally as well.
Absolutely.
So if
Thank
it's
you
okay,
so
we'll
much
probably
for coming. We
Yeah.
appreciate
thank
it.
you all.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for everything you've done. And we look forward to working with some additional families as you need us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
VBCPS team, are there things that we want to share with families that were inadvertently missed today?
I think just taking time, I know we asked our schools, they sent out the talking points, really it drove a lot of our conversations today from Dr. Rogers and the team. But just really at the bottom of that, hyperlinked are some information that over the course of this semester and this school year, my team has pulled a lot of resources. Mr. Bondi, specifically our technology specialist, pulled a lot of things together so that parents can really get a pretty good picture of what it's going to look like, because it is very different. In virtual Virginia, students are required to attend school just like they would face-to-face. It's just in that virtual setting. So this is not asynchronous. This is not a platform where students attend class. When they wish or when they see fit, they have classes at specific times. And Virginia Beach's expectation is that your child is signed in, camera on, actively participating. Again, I'll get into that in greater detail in our mandatory session for the families that elect for this. But again, the direct instruction comes straight from Virtual Virginia, their staff members. We expect our students to be there, participating, actively engaged, just like they would be in their Virginia Beach face-to-face classrooms.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Again, I encourage you to visit virtualvirginia.org or vbschools.com for additional information. And be on the lookout if you've not already heard from your child's school relative to confirming whether or not you want your child to enroll in Virtual Virginia. That said, have a good night. Thank you so much for indulging us in this brief conversation. Have a good night.